Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Flying Fortress and B-24 Liberator pilots, but for the last 73 years, it's been known by a very different name. Starting with its first road race on New Year's Eve in 1950, and then soon after the first ever United States Formula One Grand Prix, the concrete that once withstood the pounding of giant airframes has been wreaking havoc on sports cars, both in sprint and endurance races ever since, rattling loose every last nut and bolt, and possibly some teeth along the way, for longer than almost any other road course in North America. Welcome everyone to Sebring International Raceway and season number 10 of the Ray Esports Racing League, presented by Grassroots Motorsports Magazine and Paddock Motorsports. I'm Greg Ginsburg with Morgan Burkhardt joining me in the commentary booth, along with Lee Thompson, back behind the scenes in the virtual production trailer, bringing you all the great views of tonight's action. And for those of you joining us for the first time, we have 4 different classes here in the Ray Esports Racing League. We've got Spec Racer Fords and Spec Miata, as well as 2 touring car classes featuring the Volkswagen TDI Cup cars in one and the Toyota GR86 Cup cars in the other. And each of those 4 classes, they race 6 times over the course of a 9-week season. Sorry to throw those numbers out at you. And so it's actually week number 6 here in the Ray Esports Racing League, and we've got, as we always do, 2 20-minute races on tap. First up are going to be those touring cars with their 4th race of 6 this season, followed by the Spec Racer Fords also with their 4th. And rest assured, we'll be bringing you some amazing Spec Miata action when they reconvene next week at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And so, good evening, Morgan, and welcome back to the commentary booth, and welcome to Sebring.
Good evening, Greg. This has got to be one of the most iconic tracks, not just in North America, but in the world as well, thanks to the Sebring 12-hour and the 1,000 kilometers of Sebring. Like you said in the open, it's a teeth rattle, it's a bone shaker. It's pretty much unchanged since it used to be an airway. So all those little cracks in the pavement, all the bumps are there. You can see right there, there's a couple concrete patches, and it hasn't really been altered all that much since it debuted. So it's a very difficult difficult track to navigate, because on most tracks they're not quite billiards table smooth, but they're not bumpy. So here, Sunset Bend 17, where we're seeing right now, for instance, you can see these cars kind of hopping through the corner.
Yes.
And the Jetta getting a little bit of understeer there, but It's
So
another
bouncing
variable
around
that you got.
hopping like a rabbit, you might say, right?
You might say. You might say.
Like a Volkswagen Rabbit, yes.
There you go. But yeah, it gives another variable that these drivers are going to have to face where the car is not really taking a set through the corner, especially in turn one here. Very fast, pretty much flat, but there's a ton of bumps right around where the apex is, and you're putting a lot of lateral load through the car. So it's just going to want to skip across the pavement, and you can't take as much speed through the corner as you feel like you can.
Yeah, and I would imagine that, Morgan, and as we're on board right now with Josh Justice, who is currently our 7th fastest Toyota GR86 Cup driver, or T3 driver, currently, as he is working his 3rd qualifying lap here. You know, if you have to move offline, you know, you don't necessarily have those problems with like lack of grip like you would at a lot of other racetracks, but you end up running into, you know, perhaps some of the crevices and some of the bumps that you don't normally experience, and the way the car reacts to it may just be something that you don't expect. Not that it's anything out of the norm for that portion of the track. So, you know, certainly going out and qualifying here at Sebring and staying and keeping the car on the portions of the track that you are used to can be very different than when you are underway and you're racing and you're side by side with somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. And the way iRacing scans these tracks, they use laser scans, so they get pretty much every bump, nook, and cranny on the tracks. And what happens when all of these race tires, the slick tires, are going over the track, they're polishing it smooth, they're kind of hammering out those bumps a little bit. As soon as you go offline, there's a bunch of really big undulations in the road. So if you go offline a bit, like you said, it's not going to be what you're used to. So you really have to kind of plan accordingly and actually do a lap offline, maybe do a cool up lap or a cool down lap, just running the opposite of what you would normally run, just to see, okay, how bumpy is it actually? Am I gonna get speared off the track, or is it gonna be okay?
All right, let's do this. Let's jump over Morgan real quick, and hopefully he'll put in another. He's about halfway through this lap right now. Why don't we jump on board with Kyle Robertson? He is your provisional pole sitter at the moment in our Touring 3 class, the Toyota GR86 Cup cars, as he's going to be making his way down over towards turn 13 and the tower turn here momentarily. Actually, he's coming through Collier right now, and he's going to be setting up for that turn 13 in just a moment. Why don't we follow him around and try and get a feeling for this Sebring International Raceway course?
Of course, Greg. So before we start this lap, and it seems like he's just gonna be on a cool down lap here, get the tires back under and make sure you can go for one last stab at it. But I want you guys to watch at home, watch just how much this car is gonna bounce through corners, especially turn 17 and Sunset Bend and turn number 1. Just watch the car kind of skip across the pavement like a stone. But coming through here, like you see there, you can go way over the white line coming into the penultimate corner, and you don't get an off track, you don't get a slowdown penalty. There's no track limits of any kind there, so you'll see a majority of the drivers tonight really coming far over to the left to set up this run down to the back straight. And this is one of the best passing zones on the track. It's such a long run, and if you can get down to the inside here, you can really force an error. So we're seeing Kyle Robertson setting up the final corner. You see that big bump at the apex, skipping across, rolling a lot of speed to start our lap here, coming down the front straight. Carried a really good amount of speed into the lap. Going to come back to driver's right. This pit wall approaches pretty quickly on the right. Kind of drives back out, and we're going to open up the corner, bend the car in. There's a cone stuck up in that fence there. It's the apex, and then bouncing out across the track over to the curb, keeping it pretty much far to the right coming into turn 3, using that number 2 cone, bringing the car in here again. Very late apex, skipping over the curbs. Very, very patience-inducing corner here. You got to make it a really late apex so you don't track out too wide and get on the dirt. Kyle did a very good job there, and we're carrying a good amount of speed into the hairpin, which is another one of our pretty good passing zones here. It's a long straight into a very heavy braking zone, so looking for that number 3 board, nails it, and then turning it in. Very, very slow corner, slowest on the track, getting a good run out of there. And the thing that I've noticed, especially at this track, is the slower the corner, the more time there is to gain, especially that corner. It seems like it's pretty easily shaped. It seems like you can you know, do it without really batting an eye, but there's a little bit off camber, there's a dip in the apex, so if you can get down to that, it helps a lot. And then towards the end of this straight, there's a right-hander. You gotta make sure you don't run out too wide, get on those curves and on those dirt, because it'll really just suck you out through the double left, and then into tower corner, coming out far to the left, making a nice late apex, skipping across the bumps yet again.
Yeah, you see how unsettled the car gets there at turn-in. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very unnerving thing when you're driving the car, skipping around these two double left corners, cutting the course very nicely, and then onto the brakes for the what I call the flow section here, using the curbs to our advantage, skipping over the curb here, using it, and then all the way out across the white line, opening up this penultimate corner, using all the curbing on the exit. That whole section is about using all of the track that is given to you. So you're going to watch him come down the back straight. It's like I said before, it's extremely important to get a good run onto this straight so that you can have a good chance of keeping the spot and making a move. And coming into Sunset Corner really fast on entry, brakes now just after he's turned the car in, skipping across. We're going to hit this nice big bump at the apex, going to hope to get the car rotated enough onto throttle pretty well, tracking out all the way right up to that wall, and completed a lap of one of the bumpiest tracks in North America.
Yeah, and a matter of fact, not only did he complete a lap of one of the bumpiest tracks in the bumpiest track in North America, Kyle Robertson turned in a 226.59, and talk about consistent. That was only 1/1000th of a or 1/100th of a second off of his previous fast lap. But while we were following Kyle around, Caleb Patry resets the fast lap, takes provisional pole here, for at least for the moment, with a little bit less than a minute remaining in qualifying, with a 225.25, so almost a quarter of a second faster than Robertson. If we take a look over at the Volkswagen Jettas right now, and he's been sitting on the pit lane for quite some time, Jamison Huffman, driver of the number 89 Jetta, is your provisional pole sitter with a qualifying time of 228.6, about a tenth of a second clear of Skip Brock Jr., who just came off a pretty successful weekend down at Roebling Road Raceway for the Southeast Invitational Challenge. SCCA finished on the podium, and we're watching Megan Overstreet right now, who Megan 2 rounds ago at I believe it was at Laguna Seca, she took the win in the Jettas. But last week, as we were at Circuit of the Americas, that honor went to Miles Crabb, with Murphy Nichols finishing second, Trenton Kramer finishing third, as the checkered flag is now out on the session, and Megan Overstreet, she's going to hold station in third, about a second and a half off of her previous fast lap time. If we can, real quickly, let's take a look at our point standings here as qualifying's wrapping up here in the Touring 4 class. With Miles Crabb, your points leader currently with 64 points. He's got a 4-point advantage over Trenton Kramer. And then just another 2 points back from there is Seth Spolman, with Jacob Schilling and Gary Winters rounding out the top 5. Megan Overstreet, who we mentioned took the win a couple weeks ago, she is currently sitting 6th in the championship with 42 points, but it is so close. Schilling and Winters and Overstreet each separated just by 2 points. If we take a look at the GR86s at our T3 machines there, last week at COTA, Caleb Patry took the win, with Kyle Robertson finishing second, pretty much how we're qualified right now, and Beans Forster came in third, with Michael Snow and Charles Vaccaro rounding out the field. And there you go, point standings up at the top. Caleb Patry, currently your points leader. He's got 7 points on Beans Forster. It's another 7 back to Kyle Robertson. Right now, I believe our only 2 winners in Touring 3 are Caleb Patry and Beans Forster. Patry with 2 wins, Forster with 1. And then we said Robertson, Snow, and Justice is your top 5 there, as we've got our drivers getting ready. They're going to be heading onto the track here in just a few moments for the start of this race. Looks like Ethan O-Ring may be one of our few drivers left out on track here. He'll be heading back to the pits in just a moment, and we'll get things underway.
It's very, very tight up in the point standings, as you pointed out here, Greg. So coming down. We're 4 out of 6 races. I think this is, you said the 4th race in the GR86 is tonight. So the last 3 races of the season, every finish, every point is going to count here to crown our champions for the season.
That's right, and of course, this is a very, very different track surface than what these drivers encountered over at COTA just a week ago. It's a much more narrow track. COTA's got some pretty bumpy sections as well, but this track just plays out very, very differently than that track there. And it's funny, after watching the United States Formula One Grand Prix this weekend from COTA, I don't think any of our Jetta drivers or GR86 drivers would have had to worry about their planks being overworn. Worn down there. Much different challenge for the F1 drivers than for these touring car drivers. Here is Barney, Barney, our starter, is still waving the checkered flag, even though there's nobody out on track. Hopefully he'll give that up soon enough, and we'll have everybody start to grid up here for our first 20-minute race of the season. Again, remember, tonight we do have 2 races. We have first these touring cars, and then we'll come back with Spec Racer Ford afterwards. As now, Morgan, we've got the field heading to the track, getting ready for tonight's pace lap here around Sebring International Raceway, all 17 turns, 3 3/4 miles. Tell you what, I'll take the starting order for our GR86s if you want to take the Jettas. Starting on the pole tonight in the GR86 Cup cars, the Touring 3 cars, is Caleb Patry with Kyle Robertson. Will be starting over to his right. Jason Nazario will start third with Ethan O-Ring on the outside of row number 2. Then we've got John Wilson and Stephen Blethen. Good to see some of the Blethens coming back here and joining us this evening. They're going to make up row number 3 with Andrew Wozencroft and Caleb Pocock starting 7th and 8th. And I think I saw earlier tonight that, it was in the Spec Racer Fords that Caleb has never driven before at Sebring. Josh Justice is scheduled to start on the inside of row number 5 in the number 99 machine with Corey Heffron starting in 10th. And then we've got Matt Snow and Charles Vaccaro. We'll have to see if Andrew Benna takes to the grid, and looks like he may either be starting from the pit lane, or actually I think Andrew might be one of our stewards for the evening. Morgan, over to you for our Jettas.
Your pole sitter in the Touring 4 class is going to be Jamison Huffman in the number 89 car, followed closely by Skip Brock Jr. on the outside of the front row. About 4/10 gap. Very close over this 3 3/4 mile track, but Megan Overstreet will slot into the 3rd spot with Miles Crabb alongside. Trenton Kramer, just 1/100th of a second back from Miles, will start in 5th with Reed Shanabrook being his roommate. Jim Brewster and Jacob Schilling will start on the 4th row of the grid with Seth Spolman and Andrew Love in 9th and 10th. Joaquin Effinger and Wayne A. Buttermore. We see them together every week, and they are again together this week. So they will be 11th and 12th in Touring 4.
All right, so there you go. We've got 12 starters in the Toyotas, 12 starters in the Jettas, while our drivers are finding their way around Sebring behind that Mustang pace car. Let's talk a little bit about our sponsor for tonight's race, and that is Paddock Motorsports, providing Mini Cooper race car rentals, trackside support, and coaching at tracks all over the eastern half of the United States. GPM provides podium-capable rentals for B-Spec, the fastest-growing class of racing in the Sports Car Club of America for 3 years running, and now the fourth largest class overall. Grass Paddock has a unique approach where their race cars are located near the track you want to race at, instead of being held and stored in a central location, and that way you get to avoid those large towing fees. Come join us at Grass Paddock Motorsports, where Grass Paddock is not about our location, but about our attitude. And for more information, visit www.grasspaddock.com. And of course, Morgan, this would be a good time to mention the Sim to Track initiative that Grass Paddock has at the end of the calendar year. Grass Paddock, Stevie Ray from Ray Sports Racing and myself will name 2 drivers, one a currently licensed competition racer, and then also a driver that does not currently have a real-life competition license that is looking to become a real-life racer. We will be giving away 2 arrive and drive packages at no charge for these racers, for the competition racers, so that they can take part in a B-Spec race or a race with a similar organization next year, and for our driver that does not currently have a competition license, so that they can see about getting a competition license and becoming fully licensed by using that Grass Paddock Motorsports B-Spec race car. And again, we will, after evaluating drivers all year long, we will be taking a look and making that determination right before the end of the calendar year, and we'll be sure to let you know who our 2 winners are.
There's a very, very cool initiative that Grass Paddock Motorsports has put on for us. It proves again how influential the sim is and how much of it actually really carries over into the real world. But our drivers are coming around turn 17, Sunset Bend. Pace car will make a hard right into the pit lane, and the field will be under control of Caleb Patry.
That's right. And so last week, Morgan, as the pace car now heads to the pit lane, and Patry waits for the green flag, and there it is. Green flag is in the air. We saw where those Jettas came up right to the back of the Toyotas, about a half a lap around Circuit of the Americas, and it looks like perhaps Jamison Huffman has held them back a little bit further, as they just now get the green flag as well. Going into turn number 1 as your leader, Ethan O-ring, but Caleb Patry pushes the car all the way down to the inside, cuts right back across O-ring's nose as they come under braking into turn number 3. Running very wide is Kyle Robertson in the 215 machine, but he manages to hold off Jason Nazario as our Jettas now come into turn 3, where it's Huffman in the red number 89 car, and then Skip Brock Jr. in the 68, Miles Crabb, Megan Overstreet, your top 4, with Trenton Kramer, who finished 5th at the runoffs in B-Spec in a Mini Cooper from Grass Paddock Motorsports. He is currently running 7th, back behind Reed Shanabrook, Jacob Schilling, and Seth Spolman. Spolman, who was your pole sitter last week at COTA, and finished a little bit further back in the pack, and I think Spolman had finished off 4th at COTA last week.
Yeah, no, we going back to the start of this race, we had a 4 wide down the front straight with the GR Cup cars, but everybody seems to be stringing out single file, and we'll start to get into their rhythms. But like you said, the back of the GR Cup class is being caught by Jamison Huffman, Skip Brock, Miles Crabb, and Megan Overstreet in the front of this Jetta course.
Well, we'll see if perhaps the Jettas, or probably perhaps the Toyotas, have bought themselves a little bit of time there, because as Jamison Huffman was coming through Collier, he put a couple wheels off in the dirt here. And much like a lot of our Florida racetracks, you know, you drop wheels off, there's not a lot of grass there. There's a lot of sand, as this racetrack is right near the water, and so much of the area here in Central Florida just very sandy. As we're watching right now, Kyle Robertson, who started off on the front row, he is sitting now back in 6th position. He's looking to follow Andrew Wozencroft in that white and red number 80 machine, and tried to draft past the 150 of Blethen. And wow, does Robertson get on the brakes late. And it looks like Blethen might have had some issues there going into Sunset.
Yeah, and he did a very well done job of saving that car. That was very sideways and ended up not getting collected by anybody. So well done to Stephen Blethen. Very nice save indeed. But the Jettas are now within drafting range of Andrew Love and Wayne Buttermore.
That's right. And so it is still Huffman and then Skip Brock, Miles Crabb, Megan Overstreet, your top 4. Actually, your top 4 hasn't changed. Trenton Kramer in the 444 has gotten around Reed Shanabrook. Now, as they fan out under braking going into turn 3 with Brock to the inside, Huffman to the outside, as they come through those S's at turns 4 and 5, and they'll come underneath the pedestrian bridge over by turn 6 and make the run down to the hairpin, where Huffman has now managed to get back around Skip Brock Jr. But that has also allowed Morgan a good portion of that field behind Overstreet. It's allowed Kramer and Shanabrook to make up some ground, and it looks like Kramer trying to go around the outside of Megan Overstreet, going through the hairpin. Overstreet's able to hold him off.
And I think Trenton Kramer may have gotten a slowdown from that. We'll see. he seems to be a little bit slow coming out of that hairpin. But when the car is shaped kind of boxy like these are, the draft is extremely powerful. So we're seeing, and it did. I think Trenton Kramer did have a slowdown, but has been able to bleed it off. But we see the entire Jetta pack pretty much still all in line with each other's, looking for the battle for 7th in the GR Cup course. Josh Soto is leading Corey Heffron, who is right on his tailpipes coming into our flow section here. A very good little battle here for 7th place. Looks like 6 cars involved.
Yeah, and we'll see there was Justice takes a whole bunch of curbing, and this is that one section where these cars, and let's take a look here. We're going to jump back over. Here is Kyle Robertson, who again started off on the front row here today as he's coming into the tower turn, and rear end comes out behind him, and that whole second pack starts to try and walk around and lost a lot of exit speed there.
Yeah, the bumps seem to have caught him out. Josh Justice goes a little bit wide coming through Sunset, but able to keep the car straight, and seems to carry a pretty good run out of the corner. But this pack does not seem like it's going to be slowing down or breaking up at all.
No, and you know, it seems actually just the opposite of the Jettas. You know, we talked about how strong it is with the Jettas, and even just, you know, a couple corners with 2 cars side by side will bring the entire pack back to you. We do have these 2 distinct packs right now in the Toyotas, as we've got going side by side into turn 5, or probably that was into turn 3. It was just ahead of Blethen, Matt Snow, and Corey Heffron. And again, it starts to bring the cars up from right behind.
Yeah, Corey Heffron made a nice move down to the inside, but unfortunately lost a good amount of time to Josh Justice, now just over a second. So if they keep fighting like that, Justice may be able to separate himself out and go look at the 6th place car. But it seems like they're all going to try and play nice here. So it's the one thing that I've noticed with this car, specifically the Toyota GR86, is when you try and go for those late braking moves, you can end up getting the rear end of the the rear end of the car off the ground. Don't know why that was so hard to say. Under braking. And,
so basically all the weight transfer that we see from side to side in these cars, you really see it under braking as well, where the nose basically plows and the rear end almost lifts completely up in the air.
Yeah, exactly. And the ABS that these cars have triggers, and you are pretty much a passenger after that. So you have to be very careful when you go for a little bit of late braking. A little bit of contact there between Jason Nazario and Kyle Robertson there, but no harm, no foul. Those 3 all racing for the podium with Andrew Wozencroft right behind. Nazario.
Yeah, coming out of Le Mans, he didn't have a real good entry into that chicane, and you saw the rear end step out on him, and that allows now Andrew Wozencroft to move up into 4th, directly behind Robertson.
Yeah, and we see, wow, Corey Heffron has caught Josh Justice in a hurry, takes the inside into Sunset Bend, and pretty much looks pretty easy. He's gotten that move done. I wonder if Josh Justice kind of gave him that move, let him have it so that they can then break away from that pack behind. But yeah, big pace here from Corey Heffron. Corey Heffron.
For Heffron, yeah, to make up all that ground so quickly. And interesting to see there, because, you know, on the previous lap we saw where Justice had taken that very wide set into the Sunset Bend and had run pretty much around the outside. And I'm wondering if Heffron thought he was just going to leave the door open for him underneath, and that time by Justice decided to switch things up and stay to the inside, but Heffron was already by that point.
Yeah, exactly. As we're looking back at the battle for the lead in the Jetta, is still a 4-car train. Skip Brock Jr. seems like he really wants to get around Jameson Huffman here, so an interesting dynamic here is Miles Crabb, Megan Overstreet seem to just kind of be sitting behind Skip while Skip is really looking for those corners. But the problem with this car is if you go up the inside, it's really easy to hold the outside, as it doesn't have a whole lot of grip and the car tends to understeer. So the guy on the outside can take a much bigger arc through the corner and not end up using as much turning input to actually get the car to turn.
Nope, that makes a ton of sense with these cars, especially since we know they do have challenges in rotation, and certainly if you can open that arc up just a little bit, as it looks as though Crab and Overstreet have dropped just a tiny little bit off of the back of Skip Rock Jr. We'll see if how strong the draft is as they come up now through 12 and into 13 onto the Flying Fortress straight, and whether or not they'll be able to draft back up. But pretty important there is we've got also Reed Shannabrook and Trenton Kramer part of that pack, and Jim Brewster joining the party in that trailing number 933 machine. He was actually, both he and Kramer were back in that rear pack with Schilling and Spolman, and now seem to have worked their way back up into our lead pairings.
Yeah, they put in some good times, worked the draft properly, and they are now right back into it as Josh Justice has fallen into the clutches of
that's Blethyn, I think.
Yeah, Stephen
Right
Blethyn, Caleb Pocock. And Blethyn's going to make the move up the inside into Sunset Bend. It's a brave move to make, but
and that's the second time. Oh, does he impact the wall? That's the second time that Stephen Blethyn had issues over at Sunset Bend. First to complete lap number 1, and now to complete lap number 3. And looks like he managed to keep that off the wall, but he lost a number of positions. He's now sitting at the tail end of the Jetta, at the tail end of the Toyota field, and he's starting to have the Jettas work around him. This is going to make things, I think, probably very interesting for both Jamison Huffman and for Skip Rock Jr.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's going to be an interesting dynamic to see if Blethyn can get that car back underneath him and go down chase the GR86s without holding up the front of the Jetta pack too much, as we're taking a look at Caleb Patry, who has pretty much checked out clear of his Delta Sport teammate in Ethan Oring.
Yeah, and and this is what we saw last week at Circuit of the Americas, where Patry just he has a very quiet race, and he just starts to check out from the rest of the field early on, and it's just a question of equipment maintenance for him. And it makes for a pretty boring interview when I interview him too. But
cookie cutter questions.
We'll let you do it this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Here we go. Look at this. As Miles Crab is dropped off of the back of Megan Overstreet, move Overstreet up into 3rd position, and Crab is now under attack from Reed Shannabrook. And, I was going to say, and Stephen Blethyn. Not really under attack from Stephen Blethyn, but Blethyn has fallen even further back into the Jetta field as we've got Trenton Kramer trying to find a way by.
Yeah, and it's interesting here because it seems like Blethyn's trying to do the gentlemanly thing and not try to get into the middle of the fight for the lead in the Jetta, which is a very commendable thing. We respect him for that, and we're riding on board here with Reed Shannabrook, really cutting those curbs, getting everything out of the car, using up all the track, because with a car that doesn't want to rotate, you don't really have a choice but to use all the track that is available to you. So
yeah, and I was going to say, given that we don't have any 1Xs or off-track penalties to that Le Mans chicane, I mean, that is the one place that I think probably suits these Jettas pretty well coming onto the Ullman Straight is, they really have the opportunity to open that arc up because you can basically go to Tampa Bay when you enter that chicane.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think some of the reason that we're seeing Stephen Blethyn really fall back through this Jetta field, not only is he being a gentleman, but the other thing I wanted to highlight is the fact that the Jetta is so much torquier and more powerful than the GR Cup car. It actually has about 5 or 6 miles an hour on the GR at the end of each straight here. So it'll get off of corners better and go down a straight better, but the GR is lighter and actually has some wings and downforce, so it'll stick through corners like glue.
Wow, and there we go. As Jamison Huffman, as we're working lap number 6 right now, under attack here by Skip Rock Jr. and Megan Overstreet. It is currently Huffman, Brock Overstreet, Crab, and Shannabrook, as now Huffman having to defend going down in the hairpin. And look how late on the brakes Skip Rock Jr. is. And you said it, Morgan, that the best way around there maybe for the Jettas is to go around the outside, but it looked like Skip Rock Jr. just stayed on that well, the middle pedal, on the left pedal, a little bit too long and too hard.
Yeah, and that is usually the case, as we're seeing those brake discs on the Jetta glowing. But these cars do have ABS, so if you get into the ABS really hard, it's hard to get out of it for one, and once you're into it, it doesn't really want to do anything but stop. So once you're asking the car to get off of ABS and turn, it usually just goes straight and picks the ladder.
Yeah, and there you go. As Brock was probably doing more fighting, trying to keep the car from running off driver's left there than anything else, and it kind of put Overstreet in a weird position there. It didn't give her many options, as she had the two drivers side by side, both Brock and Huffman. As we jump back up to our GR86 race now, as we've got just about 5 minutes remaining, and Justice taking a look to the inside now on Caleb Pocock, and he's got Corey Heffron just ahead, and Andrew Wozencroft looking for a way through here just a little bit further up in the field. Wozencroft battling it out with Kyle Robertson for fourth. Or am I looking too far back? I'm sorry, I was looking at Pocock for a moment, not looking at Wozencroft. I'm sorry, Lee. Didn't mean to freak you out there.
But yeah, this battle for 7th place, I looked to me like Snow had a slowdown penalty coming out of our penultimate corner, and had to let those 3 cars in front of him go. And Caleb Pocock was able to get the move done on Josh Justice into or out of Sunset Corner. We're watching this battle continue. Still very close, even though we've had the slowdown penalty. It looks like Justice is going to give a little bit of a bump draft to Caleb Pocock, make sure that they can, or not Caleb Pocock.
No,
pardon me. Yeah. It is Caleb Pocock.
They were trying to push up the Heffron, and and for a moment there, I thought that maybe Justice was looking to the inside on Pocock, and maybe Pocock went to cover. But yeah, it would kind of behoove them with 4 minutes remaining to try and push back up. As we have, was that that wasn't Joaquin? Was that Joaquin Effinger? We had Matthew Snow. I'm sorry, it was Matt Snow, who we were just watching follow those 2 GR86 cars of Pocock and Justice around, and he just pulled over and brought the car to a stop and went to the pit lane. So maybe having some mechanical issues there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with the sim racing. We can't have suspension or engine failures, but you can have a hardware failure. So sometimes it is better to pull the car over and just kind of quit if you go black screen or lose steering. It's better safe than sorry. So we're seeing the lead in the Jetta pack, still a 6-car train. I would put money that I would say the top 4 in this pack at the end of the race can win it. So it hasn't changed much since the start of the race, but the big racecraft part of this is that Jameson Huffman out in front, everybody's being able to watch him and watch what he's doing, watch his lines, and he's really showing up his hand more than, say, Skip Brock, Megan Overstreet, or Miles Crabbe. So
everybody else is reacting to him.
Exactly. They can watch what he's doing, where he's fast, where they're not fast, and actually maybe follow him through and maybe get a little bit faster and even out the pace differential. But Skip Brock Jr., we've seen him try and make a couple moves. None of it has really stuck yet. But the other thing that we have to think about here is we're just under about 2 minutes left in this race. So we will probably be 2 laps to go now. They've been fighting a lot. They've been trying to go really deep on the brakes. I'm going to have to table that. Reed Shannabrook and Trenton Kramer going side by side through turn 1. Shannabrook is able to get down to the apex into turn 3, go back single file, and they're still within drafting distance, just barely, of Miles Crabbe. But
it looked like they got that move done awfully quickly there with Shannabrook going around the outside of Trenton Kramer, I think, in order to keep up their momentum and maybe still hang on to the back of the 131 of Crabbe. So this is the area, usually coming through 3 and going into the hairpin, is where we had seen Skip Brock Jr. make his couple of attempts on the 89 machine. He did not try it out this time. You know, I guess what would you do now, Morgan? You'd look to simply follow the 89 car down the Flying Fortress straight, get out of Le Mans, and try to draft past them going in the sunset?
Well, see, this is a very hard question to answer, Greg. It all depends on where Megan and Miles are and how big of a run they get. As Jameson Huffman runs a little bit wide, so does Skip Brock through Tower Corner, running the front tires off these cars here towards the end of the race. But to answer your question, I would probably want to be second coming onto the back straight into Sunset Bend. Maybe get a push from Megan or a push from Miles. Maybe even force it 3 wide into Sunset. Roll the dice, see what happens. I wouldn't want to make a move before that because the risk reward there, if you can get it done, great. It's a really good move. You've done a great job, but then you're leading onto the back straight where there's a lot of draft. So
yeah, so you're gonna want to do this on the last lap and not here on the second to last lap. In other words,
pretty much, yeah. You want to give the opposition the least amount of chances to get back by, but the other side of that equation is you give yourself one shot to do it.
Right, exactly. If you don't get it done, you've got no time left. You've only got about 600 feet here. As we jump back over to the GR86s, the battle for 7th position, and it is, or probably battle for 8th position with Pocock, Heffron, and Josh Justice. As this race continues to battle on, and I believe we are working the last race here as Caleb Patry, just a little bit up the road now, is working his final lap. And here we go. Let's jump over to this 6-car battle for the lead in the Jettas, as it is Jamison Huffman, Skip Brock Jr., Megan Overstreet, Miles Crabb, Reed Shannabrook, and at the tail end of that pack is the 444 of Trenton Kramer.
And it looked like Skip Brock Jr. got a pretty good run out of turn 6. And Jameson Huffman does not go defensive. Skip stays in line. Everybody stays in line coming into turn 7 in the hairpin. Pretty much all of them are very close together. I would say if you're around 4/10 back, 3/10 back coming out of Le Mans, you'll have a good enough run using the draft to be able to launch a move into Sunset Bend. Be very interesting to see. Jameson Huffman has got his work cut out for him. He's got 5 cars behind, and if the cars behind start to bump draft a little bit, then that makes that equation a little bit harder. As we're jumping back to Caleb Patry, he's 9.5 seconds out in the lead. Gonna come through turn 17 Sunset Bend one last time, gets the car into the corner and nails the apex pretty much again for the final corner. 9 laps completed. Going to come across the line to take a very commanding victory in our first race night in the Touring 3 class.
And there you go. So Caleb Patry, and just now coming out of Sunset Bend, Ethan O-Ring. He's going to finish second tonight in that blue and white number 62 machine. Kyle Robertson. Oh, well, that's the way at least he got across the finish line first. And finishing on this third step of the podium, Kyle Robertson with Andrew Wozencroft finishing just off the podium in 4th. Let's jump back over, and here coming into Sunset for the last time, Jameson Huffman, our pole sitter, who's led from the green. He's going to lead the field out of Sunset for the last time, and taking the win will be Jameson Huffman. Skip Brock Jr. pulls all the way across the track from left to right to hold off Megan Overstreet. Brock will finish second. Overstreet will finish in 3rd. And Miles Crabb, will finish 4th with Reed Shannabrook, rounding out your top 5.
Yeah, Jameson Huffman was able to hold off the 5 cars behind him to take the win in the Touring 4 category. Did a wonderful job playing it right, got a good run out of Le Mans, and blocked off Skip Brock Jr. from making any moves into Sunset. But a very, very close finish there in our Jetta category.
Yeah, and I think Brock might have realized, given the line that he had taken through Sunset, that if he did not come back across the track, that there was a good chance that Overstreet was actually going to carry a little bit more pace and beat him to the line. So good defensive move there at the very end to hold on to second position. And so we'll wait to see if we've got some of our podium finishers here. Actually, typically for the touring races, we only bring in the winner. So let's bring in our winner in Touring 4, driving the number 89 Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup machine. Your friend, Morgan, Jameson Huffman.
I'll go ahead and tackle this one for you, Greg. What was your plan here, Jameson? We saw you on the pole. We saw you lead from the get-go, coming into the final few stages of this race. Did you really have a plan, or was it just gonna run as fast as you can and try and build a gap?
Most of the time I was cruising. There was a brief point where I did try to pull a gap, but I was just kind of holding everybody up, not overheating my tires. So if anybody did try something, then I would have the tires to just kind of say no and control the pack. And that was my goal from the start, was control the pack so nobody can really have a say or do anything. So didn't really change.
That's a very smart tactic that you got there. Just really controlling when the fight comes, keeping the front tires under the car here. As we saw a couple drivers further back in that pack really starting to run the tires off, getting a lot of understeer towards the end of that race. So very well done. Big racecraft skills from you there, Jameson. Is there anybody you'd like to say hello or thank you to?
I'd like to say thank you for my parents for kind of everything. Thank you for Stevie for putting on this wonderful league and all the drivers in it, and you guys for hosting.
Well, we appreciate you very much, and will we be seeing you in the Spec Racer Fords tonight?
I plan on doing it, yeah.
All right, good. I'm glad you're feeling better after your unfortunate foot injury, so we look forward to watching you in the next race.
Yep.
Well, there we go, Jameson Huffman. And I was just going to say, Morgan, that I guess that's a good sign that maybe his foot is healing up there. I know he wasn't able to run both races last week at COTA. So let's bring in now our winner in the GR86 Morgan. It's Caleb Patry.
Another commanding victory from you tonight, Caleb. You just kind of walked away from the field there. It didn't really look like you were stressed at all. Did you really struggle with keeping the head down and just pounding laps, or was it just another day in the office for you?
No, it actually was, well, not really easy, but I mean, fairly simple and straightforward to just kind of keep my head down and pound laps. After practice, I felt pretty comfortable, pretty confident in how the car was handling. Knew if, kind of like every week, if I just run some consistent laps, I should be able to pull away, especially at a track like here that tends to be pretty rough at times, especially for a car like this.
Well, it definitely looked like you had all four tires, all four suspension components working at their peak for you tonight. So very well done. A cruise, a walk in the park, whatever you want to call it. You did a wonderful job tonight. Is there anybody you'd like to say thank you to?
Certainly Steve Ray, everybody who puts these races on. Zippy the Wonder Slug here, Greg and Lee for the great broadcast. And my parents are downstairs watching, so thanks to them for their support.
All
well,
right,
thank you very much.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks so much, Caleb. Really appreciate it. And there you go, everybody. Caleb Patry taking the win once again in the Touring 3 class, and I believe that is now 3 out of 4 races there with a win for Caleb Patry. So congrats, Caleb, and hopefully we'll see you in just a few moments in the Spec Racer Fords.
Yeah, I'm already loaded into the session as we speak, so about to start turning some laps.
There we go. All right, everybody, Caleb Patry, stay tight, hang tight, and we'll see him on track in just a few moments. And we are going to take a quick break here as we get set for our final race of the evening, Spec Racer Fords from Sebring International Raceway, where you are watching season number 10 of the Esports Racing League, and we'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
And welcome back to Sebring International Raceway for week number 6 of the Esports Racing League, presented by Paddock Motorsports and Grassroots Motorsports Magazine. I'm Greg Ginsberg, along with Morgan Burkhardt. And Morgan, after having the touring cars tear it up here for a number of laps, we move over now to the Spec Racer Fords. And, Miles Crabb, who was sitting back, mired in 4th position there during our opening race, he now, I think, puts himself into a much more comfortable position, as with 2/3 of our 15-minute qualifying session in the books, he now finds himself as your provisional pole sitter by almost a full second over John Vogel.
Wow. Is out of the 20 cars that we've got in the grid tonight, got 7 who have set times, and the other really big influential piece of this car is, we thought the Jetta drafted really well. This car was literally designed to draft well.
Yes.
So if you do the draft right, you do a hop, skip, and a jump, or you get a destined drafting partner, it can be worth anywhere between a second and 2 seconds in just absolute lap time.
Yeah, and certainly, of course, now as our drivers are out here for qualifying, they do have the opportunity, if they wanted to find a draft partner, they could certainly do that, as we're not running what is known as a lone qualifying session. But it appears, as I'm looking down through the order, that the majority of our drivers have really spread out among this 3.74 mile course, almost 4 miles. And so these drivers, they're doing it alone. And so when they get out and start racing, it's going to be a lot different for them, as Joaquin Effinger looks like calls off his first flying lap, as he had some issues there, goes back to the pits. And we're watching Joe Camilleri right now, as he is looking to complete his first flying lap, hopefully get a time on the board, as we've got a number of drivers that have not been able to do so far. And as Camilleri comes across the line, Does he set a time, or did he have an off track somewhere along the way? And I think that lap was disallowed, Morgan.
Yep. And a new driver that we've got here is Tyler Brackenbury out of Texas. Is new to the iRacing service as well. Been a member for less than a year. It'll be we're glad to have you here and interested to watch how he does tonight.
Yep, that's right. So Tyler currently qualified 9th, and as you mentioned, first time here with the Esports Racing League. So welcome, Tyler. So real quick here, Morgan, as time is starting to run down here in qualifying, let's quickly take a look. Of course, we've said that our Spec Miatas, they are not here racing this week. We're going to see them next week at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. They last raced last week at the Circuit of the Americas for their 4th race of the season, and taking the win was Jamison Huffman, just as Jamison took the win here tonight in the Jettas. And that was the point that he had made, was that he wasn't going to be able to get into the second race because he was having some issues with the foot that he had injured at the National Championship runoffs a couple weeks ago. Miles Crabb finished 2nd in Spec Miata, Beans Forster 3rd. And if we take a look at the points standings now, and this is after 4 races, they'll have their 5th of 6 next week. It is Miles Crabb currently sitting atop the leaderboard there with 65 points, 62 to Lewis Lockshine. And let's see, is Lewis out? And I don't see Lewis here tonight, so we may see him drop down in the order. Trenton Kramer currently qualified 3rd with 60 points, only 5 points out of the championship right now. And then Megan Overstreet currently 4th in the points, with Josh Justice 5th. All right, let's take a look here at, because we're not going to talk about the guy who's currently 6th in the point standings. Let's talk now about Spec Racer Ford. As we mentioned, this is going to be their 4th race of the season, 4th of 6. And the last time they raced was 2 weeks ago at Laguna Seca, where Megan Overstreet took the win. And that was her initial win here in the Ray Esports Racing League in any of the classes. Margin of victory over Miles Crabb, who is our provisional pole sitter right now, just about a quarter of a second. Josh Justice finished 3rd, Andrew Wozencroft 4th, and then Corey Heffron finished in 5th. And if we take a look at the point standings, our top 3 drivers in the championship right now all have a single race win. One of them, however, only one of them is in the announce booth currently. Miles Crabb currently your points leader with 61. 2 points back is Megan Overstreet, then Morgan Burkhardt with 46 points. Josh Justice only 4 points back from there with 44, and then Andrew Wozencroft currently sitting 5th in the championship. And yeah, I would suspect, Morgan, that you're probably going to find yourself much further down in the championship after this evening.
I would think so here, Greg. I could hop in the car, but it might be difficult to multitask.
Yes, definitely. Definitely so. Looks like John Vogel might be having some, well, he's not having trouble multitasking, but we just had another driver run off track right behind him. And I think that was Joe Camilleri that pulled off track to allow Stevie Ray and John Vogel through. And, when I said earlier, Morgan, that we didn't seem to have any drivers trying to work the draft here in qualifying, and looks like I was going to say, hey, I thought maybe John Vogel and Stevie Ray might try to work together as they came on to the Flying Fortress straight, but no, it looks like they preferred to dance into the Armco.
Yeah, and that is also the bad part of the draft is, yes, it'll give you a great lap time, but you're right behind somebody, so you're tucked up underneath them. You can't really see where you're going. If they miss an apex, if they run off the road, you're going to run off the road and probably miss an apex. So you really have to be on top of the ball with where your car is placed. You have to be really comfortable with following inches from the guy in front of you. And if they mess up, you probably are either going to make contact or mess up yourself. So it's a juggle, and it's an art form.
Indeed, and it looked like both Stevie and John might have just gotten their signals crossed there as we've got time running down. Actually, checkered flag is out on the session. We just saw Josh Justice turn in his final flying lap, and we've got a number of drivers now coming down the Ullman Straight, the back straight here at Sebring, as we watch Megan Overstreet and also Skip Brock Jr. Skip Brock currently your 4th fastest driver, Overstreet your 9th fastest driver, as they come out of the sunset turn for the last time here in qualifying. And let's see if either one of them can improve. Megan Overstreet, I don't believe does. Matter of fact, she was almost 2 seconds off of her previous fast time. And Skip Brock will not improve either, turning in a 222.49. He was actually within a couple thousandths of his previous fast lap, but does not manage to get past the outside driver's right of row number 2. And Tyler Brackenbury, who we were watching a little bit earlier, he took some time in the pits, and with his last flying lap at a 223.80, only 200ths of, or probably 2/10ths off of Megan Overstreet's times, currently qualified 10th.
Yeah, we've got ourselves a very tight field here tonight, and like we said earlier, the draft is incredibly powerful with these cars. So, bar any mistakes, I think at least for the first 3 or 4 laps, it should be easily a 10-car train for the lead until it'll start to string out. But in my experience, I think iRacing has made some adjustments to the way that this car drafts. So, if you're in a draft, you can almost gain 7 or 8 miles an hour at the end of the straightaway.
And yeah, that might affect what we saw earlier with John Vogel and Stevie Ray. Maybe just took the car picked up a little more speed than he had expected. Now, as we get ready, and we'll run down the starting grid here, Morgan, with Miles Crabb, your pole sitter, with a qualifying time of 221.98. John Vogel scheduled to start to his right. With Reed Shannabrook and Skip Brock, your second row, Caleb Pocock and Ethan O-Ring starting 5th and 6th, Andrew Wozencroft and Stevie Ray 7th and 8th, Megan Overstreet and Tyler Brackenbury, rounding out your top 10. And then we've got Andrew Benna, who has checked into the session, so we will see him racing here in our second race tonight. And Corey Heffron, they're starting 11th and 12th. Lucky 13 tonight will be Josh Justice in the 99 car, with Stephen Blethen starting 14th, and Wayne Buttermore and Joe Camilleri. And then we've got starting towards the back of the pack, did not put times in qualifying. And Morgan, I think we heard that was pretty much by design. Caleb Patry and Jamison Huffman, they will be on row number, row number 7? Row number 8, sorry. And then Charles Vaccaro and Joaquin Effinger. It's row 9 for Patry and Huffman, and then row 10 for Vaccaro and Effinger.
Yeah, and this is another quirk of this track, is most other tracks are pretty much the same width all the way through, but Sebring, you can easily fit 9 or 10 cars wide going into turn 1. So for Caleb Patry and Jamison Huffman starting at the back of the pack, getting a huge run with all of the cars in front of them getting their toe into turn 1 will be interesting for sure, as we're following the pace truck here tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, where was the pace truck last week when we were at COTA? That's where I would have expected it to be out. Yeah, I guess in that regard, Morgan, a big similarity between Circuit of the Americas and Sebring, that the first corner opens up incredibly wide and you can shove 7, 8, 9 cars in. Unfortunately, you can only get like 2 or 3 and at max 4 coming out. Because both places, Big Red at COTA and turn 1 here at Sebring, they funnel down into a pretty narrow track very quickly.
Yeah, it's a big pinch point, and it's the problem with pretty much every racing driver you will ever talk to is if you have that really big gap and you've got to run, none of them will never not take it. So it's really hard for a driver, especially when it's in a simulator, to sit on that kind of a run and not take it.
Yeah, and I've witnessed a few races in real life at Sebring, where the drivers may have thought they were on the simulator and took it as well, and it usually ends up with a lot of very folded up, a lot of folded up Spec Racer Ford frames and a lot of broken fiberglass. And maybe that is the difference between the virtual world and the real world is, somebody has to pay the check, write the check at some point.
Yeah. And I learned at a very young age working with Mike, Amy, and Doggone Racing at our local track. Whenever the drivers, had an accident on the track, they had a little bit of contact, and all of the fiberglass bodies don't really take contact all that well. They kind of just shatter and splinter. I did fiberglass one time, and that was enough for me to know I never wanted to do it again.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's usually that, or having 10 or 15 older guys all bearing down on you, ready to kill you after you've made one bonehead move. That either that or the fiberglass repair, one of the two, is going to be enough to make you decide not to do it again. All right, so Morgan, I've been very, very impressed with the speeds at which this pace truck has been going around Sebring, and it just entered Sunset at a pretty darn high rate of speed. I just want to see if he rolls the thing over as he just yanks the wheel to get to the pit lane. And wow, no, he doesn't. That thing sticks like glue. All right, Miles Crabb has the field now, and green flag is in the air. And we already saw there where Skip Rock Jr. was taking a look to the inside, and he kind of got back in line. But there are a couple guys like Justice coming down the inside there from like 4 or 5 rows back. We'll see what they do. But as the field now looks like safely makes it through turn 1, we're still 2, in some cases 3 wide, coming down into turn number 3, getting a whole bunch of curb, but taking over the lead. Reed Shannabrook in the 14 machine. He gets around Miles Crabb. John Vogel in that black Carrier number 4 machine slots into 3rd, with Skip Rock Jr. running in 4th. And there's some fiberglass that we've just lost a little bit further back in the field. We'll try and get the number of that car in just a moment. Brackenberry, our new driver, he's holding steady there in the 281 machine in 10th position currently.
Yeah, and I really don't want to say anything. I don't want to jinx it, but we've had fingers crossed, knock on wood, we've had a very clean, very orderly start to this event. Everybody's playing nice. We're going single file. Huffman's already made up 6 spots, as well as Caleb Patry. They're coming through the field following Megan Overstreet now, but it'll be interesting to see if they can actually make it up to that lead pack before it starts to separate out. But there's not really more than about a second and a half gap at most in between cars in this pack right now.
All right, we just saw Stevie Ray make a move coming into turn number 12. Ray, who's made up 2 positions so far, gets around Caleb Pocock as they come onto the Flying Fortress straight. And directly behind them, they've got Andrew Wozencroft in the 80. Megan Overstreet gets around Andrew Benna and moves up into 9th position. But there's already a bit of a gap from Stevie Ray in 6th up to Ethan O-Ring and our top 5.
Yep, as we're seeing Andrew Wozencroft and Andrew Benna go side by side through Le Mans with another side-by-side pairing of Jamison Huffman and Caleb Patry right behind. Are they going to try and go 3 wide? All right, that gap gets closed down. Miles Crabb going back to the lead on Reed Shannabrook, with Skip Rock Jr. going down. Oh, and O-Ring as well going down the inside of John Vogel. Big switches around here. So 3 wide back in the latter half of the pack, with Caleb Patry going up into 9th, Jamison Huffman right behind. Battles all over the place.
Yeah, and it looked like Caleb Pocock really got caught out there going through Sunset. Pocock, and I think I had said earlier during the first race that I think Pocock's first ever laps here at Sebring in a Spec Racer Ford were in qualifying. Well, it might be showing as he started off qualified 5th fastest. He now finds himself back in 14th position, as we've got a driver that's just gone around, and I think that's Andrew Benna possibly there, and possibly Caleb Pocock caught up in that as well.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of curb was involved there. Unfortunate accident for sure, but Miles Crabb got about a 0.6 of a second advantage over Reed Shannabrook and Skip Rock Jr., who is being pushed along very mightily by Ethan Oring, John Vogel, after leading a little bit. Or in third position for a fair amount of the first lap. Got shuffled back into the 5th spot, but we've got a defined first and second pack here, led the second pack by Steve Ray and Caleb Patry, Megan Overstreet, Jameson Huffman. Both of those two drivers into 7th and 9th already. So a lap and a half in, and they're up 10 spots.
All right, let's see here as Caleb Patry seems to be pushing Stevie Ray. Oh, and I didn't mean to say pushing, because he wasn't literally pushing, but Stevie Ray, rear end gets away from him coming out. Oh, that's going to cause some problems as Charles Vaccaro has to avoid Stevie Ray coming out of turn 12. And I would have thought that that Vaccaro might have had a yellow flag there coming out of 12. Maybe he should have checked up a little bit, but Vaccaro almost got into the back of Stevie Ray, went to avoid.
Yep. Luckily, no contact there. Both drivers are able to continue, but Shannabrook is going to look down to the inside on Miles Crabb. Skip Rock is going to try and go with him into Sunset Bend. Side by side, Skip Rock Jr. and Miles Crabb through the apex of the corner. Miles pretty much forced to yield the spot. Ethan Oring is going to try and go through as well. Side by side down the front straight, Reed Shannabrook is your new leader. And you're going to see the effects of the draft here as Skip Rock Jr. just kind of appears right behind Reed Shannabrook. Crabb still very much side by side with Ethan Oring going through turn 1. I think Oring just lost out on the spot, and Miles Crabb is going to slot comfortably into 3rd. But for sure, big battles here. John Vogel starting to fall a little bit off the back. Caleb Patry is another 3 seconds back from this leading pack, but if they keep fighting like this, you never know.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised there that Vogel did drop back coming out of Sunset, given the fight from the top 3 there. And also, as they turn in for Sunset, we noticed as Reed Shannabrook had come under Miles Crabb, I don't know if he knew that Skip Rock Jr. was following Shannabrook through, because he went to turn down and try to come closer to the wall on driver's right, and there was the nose of Skip Rock Jr. And we just saw this really quick adjustment from Miles Crabb to give Brock the space.
Yeah, and that's the other thing you gotta realize about the pack racing that this car provides is if there's one nose, there's usually 2 or 3. And the other thing, these cars, they have horrible mirrors. You can't really see anything out of the back of them. So you see one car and a car pushing another car, it looks like one. So when you go to turn in for a corner, you check the mirrors, you see one go through. You can't really see the other one. Yeah, you just kind of have to assume. If you don't see him, assume he's there.
And so, we were talking earlier, and you were mentioning about how strong the draft is now, and how there were even maybe some adjustments in the iRacing platform to increase the draft a little bit. As Skip Rock Jr. drops a wheel, taking a look to driver's right, he now moves down to the inside, and that we're already seeing here coming in the Sunset, these draft passes and usually pairs of cars trying to draft past the leader going in the Sunset, whereas in the touring car races with the Jettas and with the Toyotas, we just didn't see it at all, I think with the exception of maybe one time. And here we're seeing it almost every single lap.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the other thing is because the draft is so, actually we can table that. Skip Rock Jr. and Ethan Oring going side by side for second place through turn 1, bouncing across the track. Ethan still has the inside. Skip giving the push to Reed Shannabrook side by side into turn 3. Ethan he's going to go to the lead here. A little bit of contact there, but he's going to go to the lead.
Yeah, that was a great move there. I would say a little bit of contact, and I think Shannabrook realized pretty quickly that he needed to get out of the throttle just a little bit. Otherwise, it could have taken out all 4 of them there. But nice move with O-Ring, really showing his intention there coming out of turn 1 and the run all the way down to 3.
Yeah, as Reed Shannabrook is going to take a look at Skip Rock Jr. up the inside into the hairpin, but nothing doing there. And this has really brought John Vogel, after being 1.3, 1.4 seconds back, he's now right on the back of this pack in striking distance.
Well, and take a look at Patry just kind of stalking back there. The last time we saw Caleb Patry, he was about 4.5 seconds back, and now he's about 2.5 back. So you know, not a ton. Not a ton, and the more the top 4 here continue to fight, the closer he's going to get.
Exactly, yeah. And it seems like the back 3 of this pack fighting pretty hard. It's allowing Ethan Oring and Skip Brock Jr. to separate themselves out just a little bit. It's enough that they're still going to be in the draft, but they won't be able to push. Speaking of pushing, we're seeing Jameson Huffman and Megan Overstreet working together here a little bit, trying to run down Caleb Patry and then in turn run down our front pack. Seeing him come through Le Mans corner here. Seeing those cars hop over that curb and gonna ride on board with Megan Overstreet, and I'm pretty sure. Oh, Jameson goes a little bit defensive here. Megan's gonna try and go around the outside, use the side draft past Jameson. Just a little bit surprised by that. They're not gonna try and work together and bump draft up to the leaders. Jameson Huffman taking the inside, cuts right down to that apex. Megan running really wide, gonna try and maybe get the switchback here on exit. Carries a lot of speed, but meanwhile 3 wide up at the front of the pack. Ethan Oring in the lead. Skip Brock Jr., Reed Shanabrook, and Miles Crabb side by side. Gets down to 2 wide going into turn 1 with Reed down to the inside, Skip to the outside. Skip is going to be able to float good speed around it. Reed still has a little bit of a nose in there. John Vogel had to think about it, and now we're going to start to go out single file. They're realizing that Ethan Oring is getting away a little bit, that they got to kind of figure this out.
Tighten things up just a little bit here, yeah. And to watch as they came out of sunset, as Oring moved from driver's left all the way to driver's right, as if he was trying to break the draft, but I think he had already had. Oh, and there's contact between Reed Shanabrook and Miles Crabb, and Crabb is off in the dirt. He's still trying to get things gathered back up as they come into the hairpin. And Reed Shanabrook, the number 14 machine, he goes around. He's going to try and get that car spun around, and Morgan, it looked like he's got some damage in the right front.
Yeah, it looked like that car didn't want to do a spin turn or turn at all, so he's going to reset back to the pits. Unfortunately, a very unfortunate incident, but through all of the melee, Ethan Oring has come out the other side with a 1.7 second advantage, which is on the bubble of being, and actually I say that now he is out of the draft, 1.9 seconds away. Skip Brock Jr., John Vogel, and Miles Crabb are going to have to really get together. They're going to have to bump draft, push, do everything in their power to get back up to Ethan.
And Caleb Patry, who started off, I believe, in 18th position, 17th or 18th position. He is now up within about a second and a half of our second, third, and fourth place runners, Skip Brock Jr., John Vogel, and Miles Crabb. And looks like, Overstreet and Huffman, they're not all that far behind.
Nope, and if they can start to push a little bit, bump draft, then they might as well be up with this battle for second, as we're going to see John Vogel races the Spec Racer Ford in the real world, as well as Ethan Oring is taking that up this year, did his first race at Pittsburgh. And they're going side by side out of the final corner. John Vogel.
Well, and Brock also, Skip Brock Jr. Morgan hit the wall coming out of Sunset. Where the wall is cut out driver's left, and you can see where he dropped off the pace considerably, and it looks like Skip Brock Jr.'s day is now done. They're the number 68 machine. He's going to go to the pits, and it's a long tow all the way around, if that was what he was planning to do. But that now moves John Vogel up in the second, then Miles Crabb, and Caleb Patry. Yeah, he's right there in that battle for the second spot on the podium.
And he's not waiting around. As soon as he's gotten there, he's going to look down the outside of Miles Crabb. John Vogel's going to kind of cover him off here under braking into turn 7 to see if Caleb Patry's going to be able to do anything with it. And it looks like he's going to be able to ramp the outside, drive right around Miles Crabb. A very, very well done move there from Caleb Patry. Elevates himself onto the podium from 18th position and is now going to chase down John Vogel here for second.
All right, as they now come in over towards Collier, And actually, this is coming into 10. Oh, there's contact between Patry and Crab, and Patry goes around. Actually, that was between Patry and Vogel. Pardon me, not Crab, but that's going to move Crab back up into 3rd position, and that is going to drop Caleb Patry all the way back to 7th.
Yeah, and the more melee, the better it is for Ethan Oring, as he's extended his lead out to 3.5 seconds now. So he is pretty much well and clear checked out of this field with the Scott Reddick Memorial Tribute paint on here tonight, and John Vogel still sitting in 2nd. Miles Crab just behind him, but that little bit of contact, a little bit of fighting. Got our 2nd challenger from the back of the pack here. Is Jameson Huffman has been able to clear Megan Overstreet and is now running down. He's about 2 seconds back from Miles Crab. We'll see if he's got enough pace in the last 6 minutes here. So probably around 4 laps to go here tonight.
That's right. So Huffman, who started at the back of the pack with pardon me, all of a sudden I just drew a blank with thank you, with Caleb Patry. I'm starting to lose it myself. There we go. So Huffman, who started off with Caleb Patry at the back of the pack, he now is up to 4th, and yeah, he's now a little bit less than 3 seconds back from Miles Crab. He's got a tough hoe to row here in order to get up to them, as you said, with probably somewhere along the lines of 3 laps remaining here in this race, but we'll see if he can do it. Megan Overstreet, Tyler Brackenberry, pardon me, up to 5th and 6th respectively. Great first outing so far for Brackenberry, who started off 10th tonight. He's up 4 positions.
Yeah, and knocking on the door of the top 5 is no short orders. Miles Crab is going to come down the inside of John Vogel, gets the move done under braking. He's going to slot into 2nd position. We're going to see if it's going to take a turn leading and see if they can try and run away from Jameson Huffman a little bit, or maybe they'll just keep fighting. We'll have to wait and see.
You know, and we've seen with the 4 machine with John Vogel, he is certainly not one to be passive. So we'll see how he does with Crab. He's had some issues keeping the same pace as the 131 machine. So we'll see if that is the case here. But, Crab, he made it look awfully easy going into the hairpin there a couple corners ago.
Yeah, and I have to wonder if John kind of... Jameson Huffman going dirt tracking in the background there coming out of Tower Corner. But I have to wonder if John Vogel was kind of facilitating that move, letting Miles go through. And because it looked like Miles just hammered him on the brakes. He got in so much deeper. Miles goes a little bit wide through that section there and gets a little high centered on the curb, but does not seem to have any slowdowns of any kind. To see if John Vogel going to push or is he going to pass, and it looks like he's going to be pushing here. So working together, maybe trying to run away from Jameson, maybe trying to run down Ethan. And if I'm in this stage of the race, if I'm where they are on track, I'd very much want to be in John Vogel's shoes right now.
Yes. Yeah, I think he's in pretty good stead there, and they've got a nice gap back to Huffman, as we now have just a touch over 3 minutes remaining as our leaders now, Ethan Oring, Miles Crab, John Vogel, cross the stripe. They should be getting the white flag the next time by.
And yeah, I think John Vogel he's going to try and play the you go first card and let Miles Crab be the leader as they come into the final lap, as we're watching our newcomer Tyler Brackenberry following Megan Overstreet for the 5th spot. Caleb Patry still in this fight. He's about 2 seconds back in the 7th position. Doesn't look like that car has too much damage, so still plugging away. But yeah, after that spin, recovered a little bit, and he might be able to sniff out a top 5 as we're going to go look a little bit further back in this pack with the battle for 11th position with Wayne Buttermore and Stevie Ray. Wayne battling a new opponent this time, not with Joaquin Effinger.
Yeah,
he's battling with the series promoter and owner Stevie Ray, and as they're coming through turn 1, it's nice to see that wherever you are in the pack, you've got somebody to race against.
Just don't hit him, Wayne.
could
be your last race ever in the Esports Racing League if you hit Stevie Ray. No, that's not the case. Otherwise, John Vogel would have been gone a long time ago. Speaking of John Vogel, let's jump back to this fight here. This is for second between Crab and Vogel. And, as easy as Crab had made it look a couple laps ago going down in the airpin, I'm starting to think that, perhaps if John Vogel can stay close enough, I mean, the draft has been so strong here that he doesn't necessarily need to wait until sunset on the last lap. But then again, given how strong the draft has been, I wouldn't want to be the one defending going into sunset the very last lap either.
Yeah, it's a hard toss-up to make, because since the draft is so powerful, you can almost draft by somebody and have them draft back around you before the straight is over. So it's a play that you're going to have to make. You're going to have to choose. And if I was John, I would be waiting until the last lap and go into sunset, try and go down the inside, park it on the apex, make sure that Miles can't get underneath of me on the exit, and then try and hope that you get the drag race to the line. But Ethan Oring crossing the stripe, he's going to be one more lap to go here at Sebring International Raceway. Miles Crab and John Vogel have actually been able to catch about a half a second, 0.6 of a second on Ethan, but 3.5 seconds, 3 seconds of an advantage. I don't see that closing bar any huge mistakes.
So Morgan, as Crab and Vogel came down in the sunset the last time, Vogel took a quick little look to the inside just before turning, and maybe even turned in a couple feet earlier than Crab did. And I think it was trying to maybe determine on the last lap whether or not something like that, whether he could, force a change in Crab's behavior going into sunset on the last laps. And Crab didn't really bite. He just turned in at his normal time, and and Vogel just had to kind of sit there and wait. Again, knowing that you could possibly draft by and then get redrafted by, given how long the Ullman straight is it the play then to simply wait until you're just before you're ready to turn in and just kind of make a dive bomb almost in the sunset?
Would be a good strategy to use. I think if I'm John Vogel, I'm gonna slow up intentionally going through Le Mans corner, give myself about a 0.4 of a second gap between myself and Miles Crab, so that I can the draft, it's not quite exponential, but it's a linear curve. So the longer you're in the draft, the more speed you're gonna have carry over the guy in front of you. So if you can stay in the draft longer, then you'll be able to pass the guy with 4 or 5 miles an hour of an advantage instead of 2 or 3. So it eliminates the piece where you might get drafted back by. Is we're gonna watch Ethan Oring as he's gonna come through Sunset Bend one last time, but John Vogel making that power move down to the inside, gets the move done before turn in, gets a little loose. Carried a lot of speed in. Miles Crab had to concede, but gonna follow Ethan Oring down to the stripe, weaving across the line. Ethan Oring is gonna be your Spec Racer Ford winner here at Sebring International Raceway. John Vogel crossing the stripe in second by
it was close, Morgan. Only 7/100ths of a second separating Vogel from Crab as they came across the line. And yeah, we saw John Vogel. He pulled to the inside awfully early there to hold off Miles Crab at the turn into sunset. Jamison Huffman works his way up to 4th position, net gain of 14 spots. He's your hard charger tonight. In Spec Racer Ford, Megan Overstreet will finish 5th. Tyler Brackenberry, congratulations, Tyler. He comes home in 6th position with Caleb Patry, who is knocking on the door of a podium. He's going to come home in 7th, net gain of 10 for him. As we now watch here at the end, we're going to have Josh Justice and Stevie Ray come across here in just a few moments. Going to watch this battle here, Joaquin Effinger and Joe Camilleri. This is the battle for 13th position on the final lap here. And Camilleri, he gives up a lot of ground on entry to the number 700 machine. And Joaquin Effinger, he's going to cross the start-finish line. He'll finish 13th. Joe Camilleri 14th. Stephen Blethen, following closely behind, will finish in 15th position.
That was an incredible race. Very close. Lots of drama and lots of talking lines as we went through that race. But Yeah, like we said, Ethan Oring taking home the win. Jameson Huffman had a very, very solid drive from the back of the pack up into 4th spot. Caleb Patry had a very good recovery drive from, he was in 2nd momentarily, maybe for 4 or 5 feet, and dropped back into 9th spot, and then worked his way back up into 7th.
All right, well, let's do this. We have our top 3 racers here. Let's bring in the top 2. We're going to talk first to our 2nd place finisher, Morgan, driving the number 4 Spec Racer Ford. It's John
We're
Vogel.
very racy. Oh, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Hello.
green room, you know.
I will let you take this one, Greg.
All right, so John, great run there tonight. Congratulations on your podium, first off.
Thank you very much.
And so what was your strategy going into the evening here, knowing that and I think you probably saw it in qualifying as you were working with Stevie Ray for a while, that the draft seemed very, very strong here tonight at Sebring. Were you taking that into account, and just kind of just setting up for a last lap fight?
So I did. My plan was to slot in behind Miles, and for whatever reason, I didn't get a very good jump on the start. I kind of thought I did, but we got slotted, I guess, by Ethan. And at that point, I just thought, well, we got a 2-car breakaway or a 3-car breakaway. Like, let's let things settle down. And they were racing like crazy, and I could see Caleb coming up, and then there was someone else coming up from the back. I almost wanted to say, like, get in line, guys. It's going to be a 6-car race. And then they sorted out 2 of them themselves, which left Miles and I there just to make sure that we put laps in. Because I had one deal where Caleb was going to try to come through, I guess, at Tower. And again, I didn't want to be racing anybody at that point. I just took a non-defensive line and was trying to put laps in because I wanted to win,
Yeah.
So that was the plan, if that counts for a plan.
Well, and it certainly was a good plan. I mean, obviously, after a while, O-Ring was was able to separate himself out as you, Crab, and Reed Shannabrook were fighting it out over there before Shannabrook went around. So it looked on the second to last lap as you were coming down the Ullman Straight going into Sunset, you maybe had taken a little bit more aggressive entry into Sunset, maybe were you looking to maybe judge how Crab would react on that last lap, or it just happened to be that you were ready to turn in when he wasn't?
I can't tell you, Greg. I'd have to kill you.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I was trying to see what options I would have.
By the way, John.
Dude, I hate. I mean, turn 17 at this racetrack is just such a beast in real life, and you can have tons of room, get the car turned in, you want to get on the gas, and it all disappears. And so it's so sketch. I mean, I hated waiting until the last corner, which was the plan to make the pass, but it was the only way I knew to, have the upper hand. So that was the plan, and anyway, it worked out barely.
And was able to execute it. And John Vogel, you come home in second tonight here in Spec Racer Ford from Sebring. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for the great work. Carrier Air Conditioning, always the great support. And Stevie Ray. So we appreciate you guys.
Well, there you go, everybody. That was John Vogel finishing second tonight in Spec Racer Ford. Thanks so much, John. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's throw John back to the green room so he can start talking again, Morgan. And we are going to bring in tonight's winner in Spec Racer Ford, and leave him to you. That's Ethan O-Ring.
Good evening here, Ethan. You had a very eventful race, but about halfway through, you're able to kind of check out and just run your own race. But you made some big moves on the start. Were you just wanting to get to the lead and kind of control the race, or?
Yeah, I found an opportunity and I just went for it. I was hoping he would see me on the inside, and turns out he did, and he gave me the room. So I got a little lucky there. But yeah, it's fun.
Well, yeah, no, you had some really good moves. You made some very big power moves to really slice your way through this pack. But other than that, you were able to kind of just get to the lead in the right spot. You had really good timing with everything. So very well done event, very smartly driven. Is there anybody you'd like to say hello or thank you to?
I want to say hello to my parents if they're up. Yeah.
Well, there you go. A man of two words is that.
I hope they're up.
I don't think they're up. I don't think I even sent them the broadcast.
There you go. You can send it tomorrow morning as a good morning present. So thank you for
That
joining
would
us
be their
here.
wake-up alarm.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we will see you next week. Thank you for joining us here tonight. And that was your winner in Spec Racer Ford.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much to Ethan O-ring and Morgan. Just like that, he's out of here. All right, let's get ready to wrap things up here tonight from Sebring, and let's take a look forward at what we have coming up next week. It's the witching hour. It's Halloween night. That means, although we're not going to have cameras, can we have cameras for some of our drivers? Because I'd really love to see our racers in like Halloween costumes racing in their rigs. Next week, it is Halloween night, Tuesday night, October 31st, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. We're going to have the return of the Spec Racer 4 Gen 3s, and then also the Spec Miatas. And then in 2 weeks, we head to the Bull Ring, going to be heading to Lime Rock Park with the MX-5s and the touring cars. And then we've got a couple more races after that. Going to be wrapping up the regular season November 14th at Barber Motorsports Park. And then we've got the Ray Esports virtual runoffs November 21st. It'll be a nice Thanksgiving gift to a couple people, where all 4 of our classes will be running, and that is going to be at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. So for Morgan Burkhardt, for Lee Thompson, I'm Greg Ginsburg. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. from Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta.